welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And we are once again in the car, driving home from Basement Con 2025. We just drove there, it feels like very recently. So we drive to a friend's house for the weekend, long weekend in St. Louis, and played a whole bunch of games. And we've done it. Last year I couldn't make it, but I think we've done four
times.
Now.
I think this is our fourth time.
It's becoming a bit of a tradition. Nice, good routine there. And it's always a good weekend and like good friends. Play some big games. But that's kind of why we get everyone together, is to play those big games and create the opportunities to do those.
You know, it was funny. I think it was Nate. He made the comment, well, let's get like 3 or 4 2-player games out. And I'm like, nobody made a comment at all.
Well, he was making. He was joking. He was making a joke, but it was because he knew that would rankle us.
Yeah.
Because that's. I think conventions broadly, but also any gaming get-togethers. I like to play big multiplayer games.
And there are people that would say, no, I want to play my 2-player game because I want to play them face to face, right?
Yeah,
and I get that.
Or they're like, oh, I'm participating in the Combat Commander tournament, so they'll play that a whole bunch because they like the tournament aspect of it.
But we do this for multiplayer.
Yeah, and like I do that almost at every convention, right? We go to a number of those every year, and it's like, okay, like we even on the drive down, we made a list of like, okay, a Buckeye Game Fest, we've got this, and this we want to play, and like they're all minimum 4 players pretty much.
Yeah. Most of them being 5+.
Yes, and so, but Basement Con is no exception. Mm-hmm. I think Basement Con originated from we wanted to play Here I Stand. Yeah. And so it was we got 6 guys together and we played Here I Stand, and then from that it was a 2-day affair, and so it was like, oh well, we've got this other day, what do we play? And so, you know, we have lots of these multiplayer war games. So we've played a bunch over the years.
Yeah. I mean, we've played like Here I Stand, Virgin Queen, Europa Universalis. We played a couple of years ago.
We played Napoleon's Imperium,
War Room.
But like every year, it's always either Here I Stand or Virgin Queen on one of the days.
100%.
But like that's kind of the goal of Basement Con, is to just play the games that if you don't plan to make it happen, they won't happen.
Yeah.
And then we also get to like try some of these big multiplayer games that companies release, and some to varying degrees of success or not.
Yeah.
So this year was a Virgin Queen year.
Yes.
And so that was exciting because we had just played Virgin Queen at SDHC maybe
in November,
5-6 months ago.
Yep, in November.
And so that was fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. The Chrome and the rules and stuff, it hadn't been 2 years in between plays. And so it was nice to play that again with a lot of that knowledge kind of nice and fresh. We had, Brian was totally new.
Yep.
And he'd never played, frankly, any wargaming. He played like a couple. But
well, admittedly, he made the comment, I'm a Eurogamer.
Yes.
Right. He plays mostly with his wife and children, and then some friends. But yeah.
And he showed me his GMT collection, and it's like 5 games.
I saw it.
Right. So like but he dove on in. He's got a lot of gaming experience, but not necessarily a war gaming experience, and he was very competent. After the first turn where he was kind of figuring it all out because it's complex, he did a great job. Mark played Virgin Queen for the first time, and 2 years ago was his first time playing Here I Stand with us.
Yep.
So it was kind of his second play of that style of game, I think. That was cool to see. And then the rest of us, you, me, Nate, Mike, we've played a few of these a number of times.
Well, we had a discussion about counting it up. I think we've played Virgin Queen now 3 times.
Yeah, that was my 3rd time playing it for sure.
And I think that between us, we have played Here I Stand about 10 times now.
Yeah, I've played that one much more frequently.
So we're not experts by any means, but we are starting to get more and more familiar with
at least
everything.
At least the core game systems and functions. Like, I'm not worrying about stacking limits and movement points and army building and combat resolution.
Or laying a control marker to make sure that you are in supply when you're moving into enemy territory.
It's most of that stuff, like, I've got down pat. It's always just the modifiers for this type of religious activity, or the differences between European and world piracy, right? Just those little nuance changes. That's the stuff where it's like, okay, let's get the play down.
Or even the strategy.
Well, strategy is like a whole other thing.
Because we were also talking, I've not played every single faction, getting close.
Yeah.
But this year I was able to play the HRE. And I'm like, oh, that was a unique and interesting experience.
And I do love how both those games just make the factions so different. They all have very unique victory conditions on top of their, like, keys for auto wins, basically.
Yeah.
And they just play differently. You have different goals, you're doing different things, so you got to check what other people are doing, but do what you're trying to do, and then try and, like, put a little plug in there, if and when you can.
Well, to sum it up, I do think that we are comfortable enough that I understand how to do what I'm doing. I just still don't always understand
what I should be doing.
What should I really be focused on?
Yeah.
But it's starting to come more but we're getting ahead of ourselves, right? We skipped an entire day.
All that to say, that's where Basement Con came from, and that's what we're looking for at Basement Con.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, let's talk about some two-player game. So we drove down here. The first thing we did is we stopped at the Cave Springs Miniature Market location.
It was a letdown.
Which was a bit of a letdown. So we've been...
Although we did meet someone who watches our channel.
Yeah, well, we happened to be wearing Player's Aid shirts.
Yep.
That matched. Coincidence. And a gentleman came up. He was playing Rising Sun from Cool Mini or Not.
Great game in and of itself.
Yeah, and he just popped over and said, "Oh, God, love you guys, love your guys' channel." So that was really cool. So thanks for that.
Yep.
But we, in prior years, we'd gone to the Manchester location for Miniature Market, and it's just bigger. The like
stuff.
Ding and Dent clearance section was like much larger, more varied, and that's closed down, and they moved to a different location. So we went to that one, and it was fine. It's a good, solid game store, but it didn't have necessarily what we were looking for.
Well, it was about 40% smaller, I think, size-wise, and they just did not have. The Ding and Dent section was very, very small, and then the War Games section was even smaller.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed.
We still picked up a couple things.
Sure. We picked up
at Gettysburg,
Time of Heroes.
Yeah, from Worthington,
which is a game that we have played the first game in that series, Chancellorsville.
Wasn't there another one that they did?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I very much enjoyed that Chancellorsville.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to playing that one.
And then we picked up the brand new Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings trick-taking game.
Yes.
Because A, it looked great, and it was well priced, and B, who doesn't love a Lord of the Rings game? And it's something that we could, father-in-law play, family will play.
Well, and ironically,
we ended up playing
the hotel room last night after, what was it, like 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
We left a bit early. Everybody was done, and we broke that out and played 5 or 6 times.
I think we played 6 times with 4 wins.
In about an hour. And it was a blast, right? Yeah. Trick-taking has become one of those things that they've made into, like we played the Great Northern War.
Yeah.
From CSL last year. And who would have thought trick-taking could be something that is that fun?
Yeah. Well, we played a few of those, right?
Well, Space Base or Space Team or...
The Crew.
The Crew,
and then I played The Crew Underwater. There's like the follow-up. It's very similar, but just a bit tiny. And even Sam London's game, Common Sense. That's a trick-taking game, right? That's more of a war game, but like I think the trick-taking is coming back with a vengeance that filler game space where I don't think that was particularly in vogue
No.
If you'd asked me 3 years ago.
No.
So we bought a couple games there, and then we arrived at Mike's house after some very good barbecue for lunch, by the way.
Duke's was amazing.
Duke's Barbecue in Wentzville, Missouri. What we had done is Mike was actually at our house playing. What did we play? A couple weeks ago. Alliance from Columbia. So during that game a few weeks ago, we had given him some homework. So we did two things. First,
and he accepted it graciously,
yes,
which I was
and props to Mike.
by.
It was really very generous of him. The first thing I did is I gave him Total War Rome and was like, fix this. And so
and he tried to fix it, but I'm not sure it's fixable.
Well, I think he turned the combat system into something that
made more sense.
Makes much more sense, and is much clearer in its resolution.
Well, and it felt
more.
It felt right.
It felt better. But it still is a long tactical.
It's just wonky,
and it needs a quick resolution option, I think.
Yeah.
But that was really fun. We sat down and played a couple combats just to see that. That was neat to see his work on that. But then the other piece of homework we'd given him is that we have a copy of Decision Games' Red Dragon Green Crescent, I believe is what it's called.
Deluxe edition.
Deluxe edition. It could be the other way around. Who knows?
No, it is Red Dragon Green Crescent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I know that because I posted about 15 times on it, and I
check every time.
Yeah.
So it's by Joseph Miranda, I believe. The deluxe edition is.
Okay, so let me make sure. I think Bruce Costello was the original designer of the original game, but yes, Joseph Miranda
did the deluxe edition. Because the Red Dragon, I think it might have been just Red Dragon was the old magazine game.
Okay.
And I think that they added Green Crescent, or that was a set, but they brought it all together and they deluxeified it, so it's got mounted maps, it's got really, really nice counters.
Well, and it's big, very, very huge footprint, and it looks impressive on the table, the colors and the...
Yeah, it's very grand. And it's this... there's a 2020 scenario and a 2030 scenario, and you can play just one map, or you can play both maps, either map. And we set that up. You can play it 2-player. It's kind of designed as 2-player, but it'd be really easy to do it 4-player. You just kind of split up the boards, because you do one action on this board,
east board, and a west board.
It's literally what you do. So,
but it is literally that kind of modern warfare look at the South China Sea and the...
So one map is like South China Sea, and then the other map is Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
And so it is mostly air naval combat.
Yes.
And there is land units, but it's a lot of air naval and amphibious stuff going on.
And a lot of tech stuff like hypersonic missiles, tactical nukes, EMPs. There was a lot of that kind of stuff, which I thought was cool.
And it's this really big game with a lot of counters, and each of the counters can have like up to 6 numbers on it, and it looks like it's kind of crazy. It looks very complex, but it's actually extremely playable.
Yeah. Well, it's extremely playable because I think it was set out to be extremely playable and not necessarily overly complex.
Yeah, well,
while having a lot of options and details,
and I think that it's where the game really succeeds. First off, the game is extremely fun, right?
I had a blast with it.
Had a blast playing it.
We played 6 full turns. Took us about 4 hours, 3.5 hours.
No, not even that. Yeah,
about 3.5, I think.
And it really is much quicker than that.
Yes. Well, we were talking,
and learning and making sure we're doing it right, and setting it up is kind of a pain, because there's a lot to set up. But once a turn is literally, I roll for a random event, and then I take one action, I take another action, you take a roll for random events, you take an action, you take another action. That's a whole turn. That's
turn
it.
to turn, yeah.
And
it's take one action on one board, and one action on the other board, right?
The game's resolution mechanics are really simple. It is roll a d6 and try to hit equal to or less than the printed number on your counter.
Yeah.
It's as simple
as that.
Very simple.
No CRT,
that
no...
is every combat resolution. Now, there's 6 different numbers for like air-to-air,
Surface,
air-to-ground,
yeah.
surface-to-surface, anti-surface, anti-sub, and then one other one.
And that's why you mentioned the 4 or 5 different numbers on the counters.
So it looks complex, but really it's just
not.
like, I'm in this kind of combat, so I only care about this number, and it's that D6 and all over. Really simple. And so the resolution mechanics, not complex. The complexity, which I don't think is that complex either, necessarily, is in your tactical choices.
Yeah.
You have 2 bifolds, which are covered in different types of operations. And
I think there are 4 different types, right? There's...
I think it's more than that.
Move.
There's ground, there's
naval,
air, there's naval, then there's joint ops, there's logistics ops, and there's the intervention ops.
Okay, so there's like 6.
But like, if you want to move your Navy guys, look at the Navy page, and it says you can either move, or you can move and fight, or you can like strategic move, or you can repair, or you can do this, that, and this, and you have like a page of choices of things that you can do, and some of them get like real kind of cool way you can do like a carrier airstrike, or this, that, and this.
Yeah.
You know, launching like sub-based cruise missiles and things like that. Like you do all this tactical choice, and then the board is totally wide open. It's a total sandbox. But you pick one thing, you move your guys, you roll some d6s, and then you do another action. Like, it's really that simple, resolution-wise, but the choices are so wide. Tactically, it's totally up to you.
Yeah.
And that was really satisfying. Really fun game.
Well, and it was interesting, too. I had to do a paradigm shift from the I go, you go, move everything, do everything, every turn, to I really just get the 2 ops, 1 on each board each turn. And I remember the first couple turns I was thinking, oh, I can't just do a hypersonic missile attack because...
You run out of those real quick.
Well, but I'm like, I want to do so much, but everybody has to do that, so you need to understand that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just going to move. Sometimes you're going to move and fight. Sometimes you're going to do an intervention op, or try to take over an ally or a country from someone.
And it's a really simple, it's a really simple way to do. I move my Navy 1 space, and then you like, oh, I move my Navy 1 space, and all of a sudden you get into the cat and mouse, and all of a sudden you've got these like scouting and probing and trying to hunt down enemy naval fleets, and that's really fun. And I think that's pretty. You get into some of the like, it's that back and forth, the cat and mouse of trying to my fleet trying to find your fleet, and it does it just from the turn, like I do one, you do one, I do one, instead of monolithic turns.
Well,
it's awesome.
And the scenario we played was kind of there was no turn limit.
No, and there's no turn limit in any of this.
Or time limit or anything like that. The game plays out. And the PRC I was trying to get, there were 6 different areas I was trying to control.
I think there's 8, and you need 5 of them.
Okay, I'm getting my numbers wrong here, but that was the victory condition. So if there came a point where the PRC didn't have the units to do it, you could just say, okay, you win.
Yeah,
right?
I think you can also win with victory points. I think if either side gets like 13 or 15, like, so you can do it through attrition.
Right.
I think that's going to be difficult because the combat's pretty bloody on both sides.
100%.
But that's that's something you contend with. Or if you get a really favorable combat and you can snowball that where they can't get reinforcements, you can kind of choose someone up.
Yeah.
But again, different ways to win, and it's a total sandbox. You do whatever you want. You can tackle it in any order. It's not scripted.
Yeah.
That was really, really fun.
Well, and it created a very interesting narrative, and it made it feel like a game when, you tried to get India onto your side as NATO, the U.S., and you failed your role.
Yep.
So they were...
And you can never try again.
Yep, independent, and they weren't going to get involved. So I took Iran, I can't remember who else, but, those places became my allies, and all of a sudden in the West, I had a little more free reign.
Well, and then like... And it very much feels like a game, right?
Yes.
There are some pretty chaotic things that can happen in it. Like, we had Japan just like decide to leave the war and become a neutral, and it's like, ugh. But that's something you have to contend with. That is an extremely unlikely thing to happen, but it did happen, which is pretty funny.
Yep.
But like, it also keeps it not necessarily low stakes, but it reminds you that, like, hey, this is a game.
Yeah.
It's almost beer and pretzels-y because it's not that complex. You're doing things, you're trying stuff out that you maybe wouldn't in something like a next war game that's very intense.
100%.
You're you've had 60-page rule book, and it's like, I'm so invested, I don't want to mess up the experience for everyone.
But it did give us that taste or feel of that next war experience with all the different elements.
And it being
in a simpler...
the modern stuff, so the capabilities, like, fly my guys out, smoke a bunch of guys, launch the hypersonic missiles.
Yeah.
The fleet actions are really cool.
Now, my one complaint about it, and I think you would agree with me, there were a lot of errata in the rules. Right? Didn't we have a sheet printed out?
Yeah, there's a big sheet of errata.
And then there still were some rules that just weren't totally clear. I'll give you an example. An air strike with one plane counter, because that's all you can do. You can't do like an entire group, but you fly in to do a air-to-ground attack, and you're attacking airplanes that are like off the ground, right? Wasn't it?
You're attacking everything in that hex.
Right, but you end up attacking everything in the hex, and when you compare that to the other air-naval attack, it's one unit. So we feel like that possibly was a mistake, but maybe it was not.
To me, it almost has to be. Like, it is specifically worded in a way that one unit can shoot every single ground target.
Yes.
Which, if you're like, this is a flight of F-16s that can do that. That doesn't make any sense. Especially when you compare it to, if I do like a carrier battle or like literally any other combat resolution is, you do an attack. And doing an attack, is lining up units, and one attacks one attacks one attacks one. And so, but it's worded such that that's what it says. And you're like, okay, is that a mistake? Because otherwise the airstrikes are super overpowered. But it wasn't in the errata either.
Right.
So I would love to get a clarification on that.
But I very much enjoyed the game. I very much enjoyed the experience. I thought it looked great. I thought Decision Games knocked it out of the park with the production side of it.
Yeah.
It's a little pricey. I think the price was $130 or $140.
Yeah, and it's Decision Games. It's 2 mounted maps, and it had a ton of great core counters in it. So, like,
and play aids, but a little bit. We thought maybe it should have been 90 or 100.
But it's the kind of thing where you can play it 4-player easy. And we've talked about taking it to a convention, just leaving it set up because
you just had a great table presence.
5 minutes to do a turn.
Yeah. But that was our first day.
Well, we then played 1 hour World War II because a couple guys showed up.
Yeah.
That's a new game from Worthington. We played, was it 5-player?
Yes.
That was, it fell flat, we'll put it that way.
Well, it fell flat because I think it is, I think it does on the cover, it is what it says. It's a World War II game, grand strategic level in 1 hour. So you can't go in expecting all the dynamics of World War II to be replicated in every single aspect that you're doing. But it just, I don't know.
We've played a couple games that tried to do that, and I think the ones that we played do it better. It just
Struggle for Europe from Worthington was an example that we used or compared it to.
And Mini World War II.
Yep.
Is that what? Because Phalanx redid it, right?
For most of Force Games was the original publisher.
Is it still called Mini World War II? Or did
No, it is called Domination.
Domination.
And we played the new edition last year, or actually 23.
Because when you boil a game down so much, and World War II in 1 hour, not my favorite title in the whole world. Only because it's a mouthful.
Well, it's 1 hour World War II.
Sure.
That's the name. You had it flipped.
That's not better.
Same thing, I know.
But there's so few spaces, it makes the game scripted.
We felt very much that it was scripted. For instance, I was the Japanese. I literally feel, now, I know the designer actually there's an article on our blog that has like the strategies for each. And he was like, there's 3 choices for the Japanese. You go for China, you go for India, or you go for Pearl. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But the way the game folded out, I felt like 99% of the time, the Japanese have got to go to Pearl, take Pearl.
Because otherwise you just lose to the Americans.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Yeah. So
and then the same with the Germans. The Germans have got to attack France immediately because it's a star, which is what did they call it?
It's a
Victory City.
Yeah.
Which ultimately lowers political will. So you want to get that one. Japan wants to get Pearl. But then Germany goes, there's 2 routes, one towards Leningrad, one towards Moscow.
But they'll take the Balkans, which is also a victory point. I don't, it's just...
It just felt like it was going to be the same every time.
There's not enough spaces, not enough choice to warrant playing it even 3, 4, 5 times.
What I would say is if you're into that and you're into simple games, I think that's going to be right up your alley. But it's going to be probably a similar experience. Now, we did the dice rule where you're going to roll, which adds a little variety to the combat. There is a non-combat dice resolution that we did not play.
That makes it fully deterministic, which I think makes the game worse.
Even more scripted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was our initial blush at it. I don't know if we're going to get it back to the table, to be honest.
No, I think it wasn't. It did. Yeah.
But
that was tough.
We played that. I was grateful that everybody took the time to play it, and we were done with it in an hour. The Axis won in 1941 or 42.
We only played 3 years, so I think it's
42.
41, 42, yeah.
And the game was over. We had a long discussion about it, and ultimately just kind of moved on.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of Thursday night. So then Friday was Virgin Queen. So we got up, had a nice breakfast together with everyone, and then it was big old Virgin Queen time. So I played as the Protestants again. I played as the Protestants at San Diego, and I lost fully with
the Spanish.
The Spanish won with an automatic religious victory. That's how badly the religious war went.
Because I was the Spanish, and I went pretty hard at that after a while.
And I just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, you couldn't make your rolls.
And so we drew randomly, and I got the Protestant, and I was happy, so I got to redeem myself.
Yeah.
And I did it much better.
You would have won.
Well, that's
had I not placed my final key as the Holy Roman Empire.
You were the Holy Roman Empire, and France was doing real well on VPs, and I think we played. It was in turn 4.
End of turn 4.
You placed your last key for the auto win.
Yep.
And had you not done that, or not been able to,
you had 2 4-ops cards that you would have.
My 4-ops card would have had 2. Preach sermons, and I was 3 spaces away from auto victory, so I probably would have
almost invariably won.
But it was so neck and neck.
Yeah.
And the game was really great. Everyone did really well, was doing their stuff.
Yep.
And it was just, I love that game. I love the stories that come out of it.
Yeah.
It's such a grand experience. And then, you never forget a play of that game.
Yeah.
I remember every single one of my plays of those games, and there's always those standout moments that was incredible.
So we have played Virgin Queen now 3 times. I believe in our first play, Spain won. Did they not?
No, because that was where
I didn't win. Someone else.
That was
won.
where
I was
Nate
England.
was trying to do
the gunpowder plot. I was England. I didn't win, so I don't know who won. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
We just said we remember every game, but we don't remember that one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Our second play...
Craig won. We had to call it in the end, but Craig won. He was the Protestants.
As the Protestants, that's correct.
Because I had cheated.
Yes. Well,
I do remember.
Unintentionally.
Yes.
Our second game, Spain won with... I'm trying to remember who was second on that one. That was a very tentative group, going to be honest. A lot of new players.
That was at San Diego.
Yes, a lot of new players. And then this one, the HRE one. So it's good that we have seen someone different win each time. I like that.
Yes. Agreed.
I very much enjoyed that. I did miss Andrew Hames' magnetic boards.
Well, was that Andrews or was that Grant's?
It was Andrews.
Okay, it was Andrews.
He owned the game.
That's right. That's right.
Grant didn't own the game.
Yeah.
I missed that.
He had like the stand-up magnetic. We got to make one of those.
Well, we got to email him and ask him for the directions so we can make them for our games.
I think we also need to look at new player boards on BGG and new play aids, because that's the issue with both Hero Stand and Virgin Queen.
The production is not great, to be honest.
Yeah, like there's no rules references. The minutia of your individual faction's modifiers are not anywhere on the stuffs that you need. It's all in the rule book mostly, or there's like one espionage play aid, was two, but for a 6-player game, you've got to have more of that stuff handy.
Well, so because it makes it...
If we can get some of that stuff and then mount it magnetically, playable. I think that could be real fun to take place.
The final comment I want to make about the game is I won, and I was very proud of myself because I thought I played... Now, I wish you would say this about me, but you're not going to. That's just not who you are. I felt like I played the last turn very masterfully. I led the Spanish into believing I was going for, what was the name of that place? Milan. And he moved his army there. And then I bled him dry with cards because I had more cards.
Yeah.
Moving in that direction, giving him the opinion that I was coming for him because I needed that final key. And once I bled him where he only had one card, and I know it was a bad card because he was complaining about it early on. And then I turned to the southeast towards Naples and took out Naples, which was poorly defended, and placed my final key. The other thing that happened was the Ottoman player misunderstood his home card, which when he declared war on me, I had the option of paying him off.
Yes.
Which I did. I think I gave him a VP.
Yeah, because we all kind of talked about it, and he was like, oh, I'm going to DOW him with my home card.
Yeah.
And then he was like, he was about to do it, and he was like, oh no.
Crap.
Because there's an option where if the HRE wishes to, they can just pay tribute, and you don't DOW.
Yeah.
So
he was unable.
But what a great moment that was.
It was fantastic.
Like, ugh. Yes.
And I would argue, because we had this discussion afterwards, the way my forces were set up in Vienna and what's the other place that?
Prague.
Prague. Well, that's my other capital.
Oh, you had guys. It's Pressburg's the one that was empty, and the other one is, I can't remember the name of it.
The other fortress. I had positioned my forces such to accept a double-pronged attack, and I was going to counterattack into wherever he didn't come from, if that makes sense. And as long as I could have held out, I was going to take that, and I think I would have got my last key anyway. Nate did not agree with me, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I also would have had the option of coming down on him and attacking him with my other stack. But anyway, it ended in a very dramatic way. I thought it was very great. One more turn, and I think France was going to win it, or you would have won right after me.
Yeah, I don't think France was.
They were going to have a tough time getting more points.
Pretty much maxed out. He needed to do some military, and he was not positioned
to do that. Yeah. But our third play, fantastic experience. I love Virgin Queen so much, I bought my own copy.
No, you got to have your own copy.
Off the sale from GMT like 4 months ago. So I now own both. I think you own both.
Yep.
The thing we've talked about is upgrading both of them with custom dice. We haven't gotten around to do that. I bring that up now because I'm trying to hold you accountable.
Yep.
And then I would love to pimp out those, like the magnetic boards and the better play aids. I think that would be...
Or to get like, I wish they would do like a big map or like something like, just so...
Sure.
It could be, I don't know.
Well, a new map that would look better.
Well, yeah, I would love to see both Hero Stand and Virgin Queen get the like Paths of Glory Deluxe treatment, right?
Or the Twilight Struggle Deluxe treatment that they're doing.
Give us a nice looking map, because as much as I love both of these games, it's are kind of hideous.
Blasé, yeah.
But yeah, that was a wonderful time.
So if you happen to have, I'm going to put out a call for something.
Sure.
If you happen to have pre-made or fan-made play aids or fan-made player boards, email us at theplayersaid@gmail.com.
Yep.
I would love to take a look at those and decide if we then want to go to the print store and have them printed on some thicker cardboard
on
or
some
something.
nice stuff, yeah.
Because I think that game deserves that.
I agree.
So anyway, after we did Virgin Queen, we played Dune.
Oh, that's right. We did play
from
Dune.
Gale Force 9.
I forgot about that.
I'm very surprised that you don't like that game.
I think I'm at the point at which I say that game is not for me.
But why?
I just don't have fun playing it.
Really?
I know that sounds crazy.
That game is fun.
I just don't.
But what don't you like about it?
I don't know if I can pinpoint that.
Okay.
I think it's too. It's very chaotic,
But
and
you love that kind of stuff.
Typically, I do, but it's also a game where you spend so much time. It's like 90% getting money and repairing guys,
Sure.
and 10% action.
Sure.
And I want my game to be the other way around, I think.
But I find some charm in that other side of it. The bidding on the cards, the going after the spice, the maximizing your return on your troops.
I would just rather play basically any other Dune game.
Okay.
I like...
I'm just surprised by that.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like...
I've played it a couple times, and I'm like, I don't... Like, it's like, it's okay. I'd rather play the other ones, though, I think. That's
well,
kind of where I'm at
and the other ones you're talking about are like Dune Imperium.
Dune Imperium, Dune War for Arrakis, Dawn of the Fremen.
Oh, that was a great game.
Dawn of the Fremen is grossly underrated.
From Gale Force 9
I think it's
well.
Gale Force 9 as well. It feels like we might be the only people who have played that game. I don't know anyone else who has played it.
I wrote a couple of articles on it. We never did a video on it, which we probably should have.
Yeah.
What we need to do is play that again and then probably... Because I think that game needs some light.
I think so,
because it's that good.
Well, it was also just like a good old-fashioned board game.
Yes.
Like it was... I can't remember how much we paid for it, but it was like...
It was like a $50 game.
Yeah, it's a mounted board and it's cardboard pieces, right? Whereas Dune War for Arrakis was like $170 because there's a bunch of plastic miniatures.
But Dune War for Arrakis is freaking amazing.
It's amazing, but it's also like, sometimes you just want a good old-fashioned board game.
But
not everything has to be $170, $200.
But I would like minis to upgrade my Dawn of the Fremen game.
I'm sure that exists on Etsy.
Yeah, sure.
Or you could pilfer them from some other game.
100%. So back to Dune. I enjoy Dune. I love the combat mechanic. I love the subterfuge and the treachery cards. And the traitor cards are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Although you get one of them.
Well, the Harkonnens get like 4.
But everyone else gets 1.
Yeah.
And it was funny. The other 3 I had were a 1 leader.
They all garbage.
They're never going to use those, right?
But they have to. If their leaders keep dying,
no,
you end up having
true.
to. So, which is, it's
But
neat.
that, to me, that mechanic, the traitor mechanic, is beautiful.
And that is very Dune, right? They show up, you play the traitor, and they collapse, and it's catastrophic for the player.
Yes. And then the combat mechanic is extremely good, I think, because you're bidding a certain amount of your troops that you're going to commit. You also are throwing down an offensive, like a poison or a
knife or
a
gun,
or an energy rifle, and then you can throw something defensive like a snooper or a shield, and you're kind of guessing what they're going to do, and then you add your leader in, who has a value, and then everybody reveals, and you compare, and whoever has the highest amount or certain things cancel like, battles.
If I go through your defenses, I might kill your leader.
Yeah.
We might mutually kill each other's leaders, or other crazy effects happen.
I love that because it's not a standard combat system. It feels
it's very
Dune. I don't know. I enjoy it. Now, I had a bad opinion of it again at the beginning because I forgot how to do everything. But once you get it, it's like, okay, I remember why I really like this game.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion. I'm sad you don't like it because I think I have that game and we could play it a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. But when people suggest it, I don't get excited.
Not interested.
If you suggested Dune War for Arrakis, I'll run a mile to play that game.
But that's a 2-player game. This is
we did it 4, and it's just you split the forces in half, and
it's
fine.
So anyway, that was our
That was Friday.
Second day.
And then on Saturday we played War Room 2nd Edition
from Nightingale.
So we had played War Room with this group, the first edition, a few years ago, and we set it up and did a bit of a learning game and made some mistakes, and we reset it up and kind of played it the rest of the day.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was in 2021. Because I remember people were mad at us that we were getting together. Do you remember that?
Oh, vaguely.
Yeah. Because we posted a picture and people were like, why are you guys together?
That was that year? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, because... No, that was 2020. No,
because we didn't do it.
It was 21. It was 21.
Yeah, it was 21. But War Room 1st Edition, I had a good time with it.
Yes. Not a perfect game, I don't think, but...
No, but yes.
No game's perfect.
No, but I think it was a bit of a mixed bag, where like some people really enjoyed it, some people had qualms with it. There were some things that came up in the game where we were like, that's weird. Why does it work this way? This feels wrong, or it doesn't feel right. And I think there's two things to that. First was because the discussion was about battleships. That's really what it came down to.
And once again, this was our first edition experience 4 years ago.
And it was that they were extremely powerful because they're very hard to kill.
Well, because they roll a bunch of dice, but they also only take hits on a red die result, or a black,
or a black
white.
if there's no.
But still, there's only 2 or 3 options on a 10-sider that's going to hit them.
And they have like 3 hits, and they can be screened by cruisers. So it's like they're almost. And so what we ended up having was these massive like battleship stacks, which didn't feel World War II Pacific at all, because there was almost 0 battleship engagements in World War II. It was all
aircraft carriers.
Yeah, it was all air naval combat basically. And so we were running into this thing, and like the battleships were just like, every aircraft carrier was dead, and it was like kind of crazy, and it was like, oh, is this just like weird and like kind of not broken necessarily, but like they've emphasized the wrong thing historically. And we talked about it we had a lot of discussion. And I think we put feelers out online, and we got some like tactical and strategic feedback on it,
which we didn't necessarily agree with. But
it's hard to see if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I think it had a bit of mixed reception. Although I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the group and I had fun playing it regardless. Yeah. So we got the 2nd edition. Well, that's our brother-in-law's copy. We borrowed it, but we played the 2nd edition, and we were armed with this new kind of set of knowledge.
Yep.
And that is, so the carrier groups were they were screened with these battleship groups. And I think about all of the naval combats that were done, especially in the Pacific, when you set them up on the battle board, they looked and felt much more realistic.
Agreed. Because people were using 1 or 2 cruisers, 1 or 2 battleships, and then 2 or 3 aircraft carriers only supporting with their 1 aircraft counter.
And you'd have like land-based aircraft flying. And we had it was epic battles in the Pacific. It was really cool to watch.
And over and over and over again, and battles that never resolved.
It was the Stalingrad of the Pacific.
It was crazy.
But it was like, okay, the battleships are still hard to kill. The carriers are still hard to kill. But like, the way that the games were playing out with the 1st edition, the way that we were doing it was not correct. We were playing the rules correct, but we were not being tactically sound.
Yes.
And so we were playing it much more, much better, and so the outcomes were much more fulfilling.
Yes.
And much more reasonable, and the things acted the way that they should have done. And we played, almost all day. It was kind of crazy.
We played about 11 hours.
And it was awesome.
Yes, I had a great time.
I love that game.
I had a great time.
Is it fancy pants Axis and Allies? Kinda.
Yeah, it is fancy pants, but I'm telling you, the hidden move, the written orders is genius.
The written orders makes it basically a totally different game.
Absolutely, because in Axis and Allies, you know where you're going to move and attack.
Yeah, you move your guys and you attack, right?
And it's obvious. Here, it is not obvious. And when you write those orders and then you read those orders in turn order,
that you've bid on or not bid on.
Orders can then be canceled because of things that happened that cut them off, or you decided, I don't want to go into there now.
And so you're not guaranteed perfect coordination. Which means you could stumble into military blunders or military delays very quickly.
Or you write the order incorrectly. I felt bad for Nate in that very final battle in which Russian place was it of mine?
It was up north in the place that began
it's not Archangel, but it's the place next to Archangel.
I can't remember what it's called.
I'm drawing a blank on it as well. But he meant to bring 2 stacks in, and he screwed the order up. And he was I'm going to be honest, he was about ready to get really mad because I wasn't going to allow him because we had...
Oh, no, yeah, no.
What was the rule?
The rule
you screwed an order up, it was your fault, you're done.
Well, yeah, turn 1, there's grace.
Grace period.
Because there's new players, and it's... You have to figure out how to write the orders and make sure that you're like, okay, I'm used to doing this. After turn 1, you write it wrong.
You're done.
You mess it up.
You
make an illegal order. There's no... Because if you give grace, then the game almost falls... Like, it defeats the whole object of that.
And I will point out, Mike, who played the British, screwed up at least 3 times with the same...
On one sheet.
On one sheet with the same area. He thought it was A1 and it was really A12, but he couldn't see the 2.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, that you've got to inspect.
And we have these off-map maps with all the things on. You've got to... You write your orders looking at those.
But I felt bad because Nate wasn't able to get his second stack in there that would have decided the battle for him.
Yes, I think he would have won that.
But because he didn't bring that in, I got down to like...
He had 1 tank.
He had, I think, 2, which next turn, he now had nothing in Finland. So Finland's gone next time for him. And then I had a big stack that I was going to wheel around and probably take. It was just, to me, that was very dramatic, but I felt bad for him. I really did.
But that's the game.
That's the game.
Right?
That's the game.
And but it was just a really fun experience. I really enjoy that game. Again, is a game like that a perfect simulation? No, it's never going to be.
It's better than Axis and Allies. And I enjoy Axis and Allies, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think I agree. And it's
fun.
It's long as hell.
Oh my. Well, we got through 5 full turns.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that took us 11 hours.
Yeah.
So about 2 hours a turn for a full, and we had 7 players, right? We gave someone China. And normally in the game, China is controlled by the United States.
Yeah, and if you really wanted to, you could, if you only had 5 players, you could also have Italy controlled by the Axis pretty easily as well.
But you had Italy, and I thought you did a pretty good job.
But that also, I did a decent enough job. They're a small faction, but that means that my stuff's kind of low stakes, which meant I was able to GM the combat and keep that going. Because the combat's what slows the game down, really.
100%.
There's a lot of phases.
It's very involved.
Yeah, especially when you get into big combats. Here's all the guys, you got to set them all up on the battle board, and then you roll a bunch of dice and you resolve them all. And so I was able to just be like, I'd be in the rules and be like, okay, this, and this, and this. Because otherwime it would take a real long time.
And thank you for doing that. I thought you did a good job of GMing as well, dual rolling it. But five turns, 11 hours, and we were really not even close to any form of... We were starting to get there.
I think...
Axis was crumbling.
I think the Axis was pretty much done.
Yeah.
It's just how long it would take to finish them off.
Yeah.
So the reality is we probably would have played one more turn and probably called it at that, I think.
Right.
Because I think it would have been over for Germany.
Japan wasn't going to be able to build any more ships the next turn because they had bid a lot of oil, which is required for capital ships and tanks and planes, because they needed to save some units or they were going to lose them.
Yeah, well, he was trying to get all those troop transports
and trap Craig
and get those. And save the guys over in the Philippines. But that's what's so good about that game is there's always a pet trade-off. It was
but then Germany had been strategically bombed, which we realized the power of strategic bombing. Although I still would argue it's very hard to do.
If you can get it to go through,
oh my gosh,
it's strong.
Well, it's strong because you destroy units that are being constructed, which is like never fighting them.
Yeah.
And wasting his resources. You can damage his resources.
Right onto I-70
but more.
But I think losing the units makes you lose the war. I think that's
Agreed.
the real key. Yeah, you might lose a factory chimney, so you can't place as many. But like, if your reinforcements don't show up, you lose. I think it's really that, especially on the East Front, if they're fighting
But
there.
that was interesting, and I would like to see in future games that we play somebody competently plan and do
maybe a longer term commitment.
Strategic bombing. So, but I had a blast. I would play that game anytime again. But you need a long weekend.
Yeah, it's a big one. Especially,
well, maybe you don't need a long weekend. Maybe you just need 2 days or a day and a half.
I think if you're going to either play, I think you're going to play a day and a half, 2 days at most, and it will be obvious at that point which way the game's going to go.
No, I would agree.
Now, if you were to resolve it to the bitter end, where you actually take the 2 capitals, you probably need a 3rd day.
Yeah.
But who's got that time?
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a really good time playing that. Well, it was awesome.
And I thought the new changes to the system, I think they did some minor changes and reorgs, and they added some quick play options and some. Yeah. Didn't they do some scenarios as well?
Yeah, they added a scenario too, but I'm here for the global game. I'm here for the
I get it. But I like some of the improvements they did to the over the first edition.
They've got the component organizer that has the magnetic lid on it.
Very nice.
And it's pictorial underneath the pieces, so you know which one goes in which slot. That was helpful.
So what we need to do is we need to upgrade our 1st edition copy to a 2nd edition copy.
Yeah.
No.
Is there an upgrade kit?
I think you can buy each element off their site.
Yeah, no.
So you can buy the order books for $14 and you get one of all 7.
Okay.
You can buy more pieces. We need more infantry.
Yes.
We don't need anything, but the infantry is what we need.
And I think you can kind of mix and match what you actually buy.
Right.
I think.
And then there was one other thing that we felt like we needed. Another rule book, maybe?
Oh, so like they had changed the way the morale board works.
Yes, so we need the morale board.
So you need the morale board.
Yeah.
Before you were stacking a bunch of bits, and now it's just a track. It's way cleaner.
Way better.
It's way nicer.
But I agree with you. I enjoyed the game. I know not everybody at the table enjoys the game. But
I would say that pretty much everyone had a good time playing the game. But I think some of the people were like, is it the best game in the whole world?
Sure. And I'm not arguing that it's the best game in the whole world.
No, but
I had a good time with it.
But when I play it, I have fun. And I think that's what I care about at this point.
And I think that was about 8 p.m., and we kind of said our goodbyes, and we went back to our room.
And that's when we played our Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
Which was a huge surprise to me.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So
I absolutely loved it.
Absolutely stunning production value and artwork for a trick-taking game.
Yep.
And we just played it, and it's similar to the things like The Crew, where you're like, you have this goal, and that goal is for you to this person can only win one
trick,
or this person must win this
4 tricks with all the rings. Yeah.
And this person must win more than 3 tricks.
Yeah.
And you have to play under those stipulations, so it's like trying to force who wins what and where, and you can't discuss what you've got in your hands. And it's a cooperative game.
And then as a cooperative 2-player, the 3rd player is a automata, pyramid of cards, which I thought worked.
That you can see some of, but not all of.
Yeah, that worked very well.
I think it worked well.
Probably made the game easier, don't you think?
Probably,
because you could see those cards.
But then they also some of it's so random that they can't act intelligently.
It's true.
So there's a real. I think it works really well.
Yeah,
having that dummy. But yeah, play it 3 or 4 player, and you're gonna have a real fun time. For sure.
I loved it. I would love to play it again.
Yeah, we'll get John around and play that, and it looks so good.
Well, anything Lord of the Rings typically has out of this world art. and good components. I'm not sure any of the Lord of the Ring games we own or have played have not been great.
Yeah. So that was a real good time. I had a blast. I think I enjoyed pretty much everything. Well,
100%. What do you mean? 1 hour World
1 hour World
War
War II, and then Dune was like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the big games, that's what I came for, and I had a blast. Yep. And Red Dragon Green Crescent was a massive
big hit
success.
With us. Yes.
And it was a very different kind of game than I thought it was going to be.
Agreed.
I thought it was going to be some massive, heavy, big game.
And it wasn't.
And it's not. And that's such a positive thing for it.
We didn't go as far as saying that was beer and pretzels, but it feels beer and pretzels.
It's as beer and pretzels as like a modern warfare game can be, while still
because of
good.
The complexity and the tactical options and
you've got all the cool tactical options and the modern stuff, but the resolution doesn't have 15 pages of modifiers and exceptions, and so you do it. And then you move on.
I was 100% shocked there was no CRT,
and then
I was blown away by that.
And then we're like just doing it and blowing through it and doing stuff, and fun things and dramatic things are happening. And like when stuff would happen, you're like, it's a magazine game. Just remember, it's a magazine game.
Yeah.
So it originally started with like a very limited set of rules, and they've fleshed those out, but it still retains that core of like, hey, we're just here for a good time and to play a game and it be fun.
Yeah.
And it does that really well. That was a huge win from the weekend for sure.
Yeah.
So I
had a great time. Look forward to doing it again maybe next year.
Yes.
And doing probably Here I Stand this time.
I think that's what we've agreed on. And then whatever else we've got.
I remember I mentioned we also backed from Nightingale Games their Imperial Borders Napoleonics game. Same style where you have some written orders, but Napoleonics. So it uses minis rather than the little stackable, which those stackable things are amazing.
Yeah, they work really well.
But that might be the one game we do next year.
If that arrives, I would love that.
So, but I look forward to it and had a blast. So thanks for going with me.
Absolutely.
And appreciate Mike for his hospitality. He basically would not accept any money for food. We tried to give him $50 or $100, but we had steaks, we had pork chops.
And thanks to Michelle for cooking. That was great.
We had soda, we had chips. It was. We were taken care of, and we always appreciate that.
So thanks for everyone who contributed to that, everyone who traveled and played with us as well.
Yep.
And thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.